Revenge films.
My husband Ken died of an illness 5 years ago. My daughter Marissa was only several months old at the time. Both of my parents are long gone, and so is my husband. I didn't know how I could go on with my life. Then my mother-in-law, Helen, said that I could live and raise Marissa together with them until I get remarried. They were always very kind to me, even before Ken passed, and were like real parents for someone like me who didn't have any other family. I was worried that now that I had lost Ken, I would lose them altogether and become all alone in the world. That's why I appreciated their thoughtful offer and said yes right there and then. Since I stayed with them, I bounced back from the loss relatively easily, and I didn't have to face financial problems to raise Marissa. We would sometimes argue over small things, like real family, and the four of us traveled together to many places. Now there are more photos of Marissa with them than ones of Marissa and Ken. A few years ago, when Marissa was about 5 years old, my sister-in-law, Vanessa, and her husband, Igor, came into our lives. Having lost their small business and their house recently, they asked my parents-in-law to let them stay in their house, but there was an unresolved issue between them in the past. Before Ken and I got married, Vanessa had stolen money from the house and disappeared. So I had never met them before, not even on holidays. The in-laws were upset at first, but Vanessa was their only surviving biological child now, and I was in no position to say anything about it. And they allowed the couple to live with them only until they found a new job. But that was a mistake. Vanessa and Igor were nice to me at first, but within a few weeks they changed their attitude. To start, Vanessa told me, behind her parents' backs, to pay $2,000 per month as living expenses for me and Marissa. Since Marissa started preschool, I've been working part-time, but being a part-time worker with no benefits, it was impossible for me to pay her $2,000 a month. Meanwhile, Vanessa and Igor didn't seem to look for work at all, but just stayed in the house, using me as a maid. When I came home from work, she would tell me to make tea for them, to clean the house. She insisted she was the real child in this house, no matter how nice her parents were to me. She then asked me how much money I received from Ken's insurance and told me that the money should be given to her and her husband if Marissa and I continued living in their house. But that money, which wasn't much, remained untouched for Marissa's future, which was also Helen's advice, and I had no intention of giving it to Vanessa. Another bad sign was that Igor, pretending to not notice I was in, came into the bathroom when I was taking a bath. He looked at me and smirked. Fearing the worst could happen, I decided to leave the house. But I couldn't tell the in-laws about the incident. When they asked me the reason for leaving, I didn't have the heart to tell them the ugly truth about their son-in-law after they let us stay with them for all these years. If I did, I knew they would be caught between me and Vanessa. They were willing to give some money to me and Marissa when we left, but I couldn't receive it. I mean, how could I? And Marissa and I moved on, living frugally. But we kept in touch. I heard more stories about Vanessa and Igor after we moved out. They were rude, mean, and acted as if the house belonged to them. They were unemployed, but didn't even look for jobs. When Vanessa was told to get out of the house, she insisted that the house was hers. In-laws were in trouble. Also, Vanessa and Igor were frequently drunk, and after we moved out, that escalated. They argued constantly. When the couple were told to get a job or get out of the house, they became violent at home. Helen sounded exhausted on the phone. I wish there was something I could do about it, but I had a small child and work, and with Igor's creepy nature, I couldn't do much about it. Before long, my father-in-law passed away from myocarditis, possibly from accumulated stress. He was like a real father to me, and I was so sad. Helen and I made the funeral arrangements together. But Vanessa and Igor didn't even seem to care. 2 days later, I received a call that Helen had been brought to the urgent care, and I rushed to the hospital. Helen told me that when she was going to the bathroom, she fell down the stairs and was badly injured. She also said that she wasn't certain because she just woke up, but she felt something on her back, which made me feel uneasy. After Helen's husband died, she received the inheritance money. Nobody else knew about that except the couple she lived with. and if something happened to Helen, all of it would go to one person only, her daughter. She didn't even attend her own father's funeral. And this timing, it didn't take a genius to figure this out. While Helen was in the hospital, I went to her house to get her clothes, etc., but Vanessa and Igor never visited Helen at the hospital. I was astonished to hear that Helen called the ambulance herself. Perhaps feeling in danger, Helen told me that she didn't want to go back to the house and that she didn't want to see the faces of the two, so I gladly welcomed her to my apartment when she was discharged. In the meantime, Vanessa and Igor found some cash in the house and went on a trip somewhere with it, so we took advantage of their absence to take action. Helen said she'd been thinking of selling the house and moving to a senior apartment because she didn't want to live with them anymore. So we went over to the house and packed up a few things, sorted out, and took some to a storage unit to sell the house. Her house itself wasn't too valuable, but the location was, and she got a decent profit out of it. With that money, after I talked to my work and Marissa's preschool, we decided to move somewhere safe where the two couldn't find us. A few days later, both Helen and I received a series of angry messages and calls from Vanessa saying she couldn't get into the house. There was a sign of for sale, etc. When I told her that Helen sold the house, she yelled that she would sue me for kidnapping Helen. Then Helen told Vanessa directly that she didn't consider her a daughter anymore and that she would cut off all ties with her and hung up the phone. We still got the angry messages and calls, but we ignored them all. They can't possibly find us in this large country, especially for broke people like them. I heard about what happened to them through word of mouth. Since Helen didn't die from their first attempt, they were going to do the same once she was discharged from the hospital to get all of her assets. The money they found in the house wasn't enough, and they borrowed from several consumer credit companies. Not only did they lose a place to live, but their debt exceeded $100,000. Vanessa begged for help from Helen. "Please help, Mom," and left a voice message for me. "Give me back my mom, you thieving cat! I'm the legit daughter. My parents' money is mine!" I have no intention of seeing her ever again. I had Ken, my only husband in my life, and I'm not looking for another. I have a precious daughter Ken gave me, and I have his mother, Helen. I'm very happy with what I have. Vanessa and Igor lived off their parents' assets, didn't work, and didn't earn. They cannot escape homelessness, which they deserve. They will pay the price for what they've done for a long time to come.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.